Well, folks, this is the last new material of the 2019-2020 school year. What's that noise I hear? Ah, I believe it's the sound of cheering coming from all over Montgomery County. Yes, it's almost over, folks. Section 9.6. We'll be skipping section 9.7, by the way. We're out of time. Theorem 9.9. I want to challenge you on something here. I want you to consider the words of Theorem 9.9, and I would challenge you to pause the video and think through these words, one phrase at a time, and see if you can figure out very simply, what's it saying? Yes, it can be done. Multitudes of people over the decades have been able to read this and figure out what it means. Let's see if you can do it. So, hit pause, give it a try. It says, the measure of an angle formed by two chords that intersect inside a circle is equal to half the sum of the measures of the intersected arcs. Yes, it's a lot of words, but you are mature enough to handle it. All right, let's see what it does say. If we have two chords, these yellow guys here, that intersect inside a circle, the measure of this angle, the one with the question mark, will be equal to 1/2 of the sum of the intercepted arcs. That would be x and y. In other words, to find this angle, all you have to do is go x plus y and take half. That's what it says. Or you could write that, of course, as x plus y divided by 2. Of course, that's the same thing. Your choice, however you want to think of it. It's all the same thing. So, a quick example or two here. Suppose I were to tell you that x has a measure of, what's realistic here? We'll say x has a measure of, say, 80. And perhaps we say that y has a measure of, get rid of the color there, y has a measure of, I'm going to call that about 30. All right, so how do you find the measure of what I will call angle 1? Well, you go 80 plus 30 divided by 2. That'll be 110 divided by 2. That'll be 55. So angle 1 would have a measure of 55 degrees. By the way, don't let me on the test or the book writers on the homework fool you. Suppose instead of asking for that angle, suppose I ask for angle 2 up there. Be careful. Come on. Think it through. This theorem gives you the measure of this angle. That angle is 55. So if that's 55, is angle 2 also 55? Well, of course not, because we know that these two guys have to add up to, 180. So we find this one first, and we use that knowledge to find angle 2 up there. So angle 2 would be 180 minus 55, which will be what? 125. 125. So don't let them fool you with a question like that. All right, let's move on. Theorem 9.10. Theorem 9.10, I'm not going to bother reading the words, and I'm not going to put the words on the screen, but Theorem 9.10 says this. If you remember what a secant is, by the way, on the test, you will be responsible for the definitions of these terms. There will be a matching section. Every year I put a matching section on this test to check you on your knowledge of the terms, such as chord, radius, diameter, minor arc, major arc, semicircle, diameter, what else is missing? Secant, tangent. Am I leaving anything out? I don't know. But all those definitions, all those terms will be tested. Make sure you know them. So here we have two secant lines that meet outside the circle, right there. When two secants meet outside the circle, then the measure of the angle formed, angle 1 right there, will be half of the difference in the arcs. You'll take x minus y and divide by 2. So a quick example, if x were, say, 60, and if y were perhaps 20, 60 minus 20 is 40, half of 40, angle 1 has to be 20. Oh, it's always the same as this? No, 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 no. In fact, let's change the numbers here so you don't get confused. Suppose that's only a 30 instead of, suppose it's 30 instead of 20. Now again, subtract the arcs. 60 minus 30 is 30. Half of 30 is, angle 1 just became 15. Subtract the arcs, take half. In a few moments here, I'll give you a trick that'll help you remember these. Now, Theorem 910 actually has 3 parts to it. That's part 1. Part 2 says, what if instead of having 2 secants, what if we have 2 tangents that meet outside the circle? Hey, guess what? Same rule. That's why it's part of Theorem 910. Same rule. You subtract this arc minus that arc, take half, you've got it. Now the beauty of this is, all I have to give you is one of those 2 arcs. Suppose you're told that this is, make up a nice easy number to work with. Suppose you're told this arc is 220. How do we find angle 2? Well, Theorem 910 says we take this arc and subtract that arc and take half. But they're not going to give you this arc whose measure is y. So how are we going to find it? Of course, the whole circle's got to be 360. And these 2 tangent points split the circle into just 2 parts. 220 is sitting here. What's that leave for y? 360 minus 220, we end up with 140. So our angle y, or arc y, has a measure of 140. Because these 2 arcs have to add up to 360. Oh, so we're done. It's 140. No, 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 we're not done. Now we simply know both arcs. Now we still have to do what? Subtract the arcs and take half. So now we have 220 minus 140. That'll be 8, that'll be 80. And then take half. So angle 2 must be half of 80. Angle 2 is 40. You might want to back up the video a little bit and pretend you didn't see the answers and try that on your own. By the way, on the homework, I will reject your paper if you just give me answers. I want to see the steps you followed to get those answers, regardless of how simple those steps may have been. For instance here, it's not very complicated. 60 minus 30, take half. But I want to see on your paper, 60 minus 30, take half, equals 15. I want to see this on your paper. None of this just answers stuff. Even if you do it all in your head, which I would hope you could do. But even if you are successful in doing it in your head, I still want to see your steps on your paper. All right, there's a third case. Case 1, 2 secants. Case 2, 2 tangents. Same rule. Case 3, 1 of each. A secant and a tangent. Guess what? Same rule. You still subtract this arc from that arc and take half. Now here, the way they can try to mess with your mind, they might give you this arc. Let's suppose that's about, we'll call it 150. And maybe they give you this arc. Aha, the wrong one. Suppose that arc is, I'm going to call it about 110. And now they want angle 3. Well, Theorem 9, what theorem is it? See, remember, you don't have to have theorem numbers memorized. I certainly don't. Theorem 9.9. Theorem 9.9 says, where in the world am I? There, I'm lost. How lost can I be? Oh, I'm down here. I see. Okay, so Theorem 9.9 says we take this arc and subtract this one. the two arcs that are between these segments, these lines. So we have 150 there and 110 there. That adds up to a total of 260 so far. So from here to here is 260. What's that leave you with for this guy? Well, it's going to be 360 minus the 260 we've already used up, which leaves us with exactly 100 for y. Now we can subtract and take half. 150 minus 100. 150 minus 100 is 50. Divide by 2, we get angle 3 is 25. I expect to see all of your steps shown neatly on your paper in an organized fashion. I do not want to have to hunt and search and try to figure out where did this come from, what's that, what's this, oh, over here. Oh, is that part of this problem or is that part of this problem? No, no, no. I want to see organized, neat work. All right, now here's your assignment. Oh, and we're not quite done yet, but your assignment is page 358. Classroom exercises 1 through 8 all, and on 359, numbers 11 through 19 all. Notice on these guys, these are written exercises. That means the odd numbered answers are on the back of the book. Please, oh please, check yourself in the back of the book. However, steps must be shown for every problem on both pages. Answers alone will not be accepted. They will be rejected, and you'll feel bad. All right, a quick overview of what we've looked at today. Section 9.6. The first theorem we solved today referred to a circle with chords that meet inside. What's the rule? The rule is to find angle 1, you add the arcs and take half. In plain language, add and take half. When they meet inside the circle, it's add and take half. Some old stuff here from previous section. What if instead of meeting inside the circle, what if they meet on the circle? That's when you just take half. Angle 1 is half of arc x. Just take half. What if they meet outside the circle? Well, that's where you're going to subtract. Subtract and take half. Subtract and take half. And special cases of this one, even if one of them is a tangent and one's a secant, you still subtract and take half. Or if they're both tangents, you still subtract and take half. Do not confuse that with this old rule from back like the first section of the chapter. This is not an inscribed angle. This is called a what? Well, assuming that this is the center of the circle, this is a central angle. Central referring to the center of something. This is a central angle, and by definition, a central angle's measure is equal to the arc measure. If that arc is 50, then the angle is 50. If that arc is x, then the angle's measure is x. Do not confuse this old definition with these rules that are totally different. All right, here's a way to remember it. When they meet inside the circle, what do? You add and take half. Watch this. I'm going to rearrange those guys a little bit, and with a little imagination, they look like a plus sign. If you take two chords that meet inside the circle, and oops, too far, and apply a little imagination, you can envision them looking like a plus sign, which reminds you to add and take half. What if they meet outside the circle? Well, again, with a little bit of imagination, if we squeeze those together and shrink them up a little bit, we have a subtraction sign. That reminds you that when they meet outside the circle, you subtract and take half. See that one more time? If they meet outside the circle, you squeeze them together, and the rule is you subtract and take half. Examples. Let's find angles 1 and 2. Now again, I know on the test, I prefer to stick with one rule at a time. One theorem at a time, one concept at a time. This actually has two concepts built into one diagram. I'm sure you could handle it, but on the tests, I just make it a little bit easier than this. But that is easy. Yes, I agree, this is easy. But on the test, it's even easier. Oh, by the way, the question has been asked, do I intend to have a Zoom review of this chapter? I really do not plan on doing that. Historically, the Chapter 9 tests over the years have been very high scoring because the material is not complicated. You learn a few rules, you apply the rules, you learn some definitions, you apply the definitions. What is there to review? If you want to review, go back over the videos or go back over the homework discussions. This stuff is, the only thing I would be able to do in a review would be to repeat everything I've already said. But you can do that for yourselves by just going back to the old videos, to anything that bothers you. So I'm not planning on a Zoom review. Not planning. Hey, I could be convinced otherwise, but that's not my plan. Okay, so from page 358, first example, finding angles 1 and 2. Looking at just this, we have a classic case of two chords meeting inside the circle. We add the arcs and take half. 70 plus 50 being 120. Therefore, angle 1 is half of 120. It is 60. Again, on your homework, I expect to see that. I expect you to write 70 plus 50 divided by 2 equals 60. All right? And that's all the work you need to show right there. That's it. Show me some evidence that you didn't just look up the answer in the back of the book or something like that. All right, to find angle 2, get rid of all this. For angle 2, we're looking at this green stuff. This guy and this guy. We have two intercepted arcs here. The rule is subtract and take half. It looks like a minus sign. Subtract and take half. 70 minus 26 being what? Being 44. So we have subtracted 44s. It's, let's write this down because that's what you have to do on homework. 70 minus 26 divided by 2. 70 minus 26 being 44 divided by 2 is 22. So angle 2's measure is 22. Okay, just flipping to my book here. All right, the next example. We're to find arcs BD and BC. Arc BD, where's arc BD? BD, there's arc BD. Now this one is a little bit trickier. Let's look at it like this. We know that this angle is found by adding these two arcs and taking half. Here we have our two chords. We would add these two arcs and take half. We would get 100 because they told us so. Here's how I think about it. What would that number have been just before you took half? If taking half is your last step, what was it right before you took half? It was 200 right before you took half. And where would that 200 come from? That 200 would come from adding the arcs. So 66 plus what would be the 200 that you would then take half of to get this? 66 plus 134. Check yourself. 134. See if it works. This arc plus this arc. Take half till you get the 100. 134 plus 66 being 200. Divide by 2. Yes, indeed. We got the 100. So think it through backwards. I call this thinking it through backwards. You say to yourself, well, I know how we find this normally. We add the arcs and take half. Well, if that's found by adding the arcs and taking half, then what was that just before you took half? 200. Where did that 200 come from? It came from adding the arcs. So 66 plus what is 200? 134. We're done. Now this problem also asks us for, arc BC. Arc BC, right here. Okay, of course, oops, I just erased part of our information. We know that this arc is 134. We're looking for this arc, and what we have is a secant and a tangent. So, remember that the angle is half the difference in the arcs. You subtract the arcs and take half. So if you subtract the arcs and take half and get 40, what was that 40 right before you took half? It started off life as an 80. Where'd that 80 come from? That 80 came from 134 minus the guy we're looking for. So 134 minus the guy we're looking for, measure of arc BC, is 80. Okay, so subtract 80 from 134 and we're done. 80 subtracted from 134 gives us what? 56, is it? I think it's 56. Oh, wrong. Sorry, of course. 54. 54. Then you can check yourself. What's 134 minus 54? That's 80. Then take half. Bingo. You checked yourself, it works. All right, once again, here's your summary of this whole section. If they meet inside, remind you of a plus sign, add, and take half. If they meet on the circle, just take half. That's old stuff. If they meet outside, that's when you subtract and take half. And that's equally true if one of these guys happens to be a tangent, or even if both of them are tangents. You still subtract and take half. Not to be confused with the old stuff, that for a central angle, by definition, the arc measure equals the angle measure. These would both be x, and x. And according to my little green X over here, that's all I have for you today. That is it. And that's the end of the new stuff. Your assignment is due Monday. And then we'll have a review assignment, which we'll be checking on Wednesday. And your test is Thursday at 1 o'clock. Test Thursday at 1 o'clock. All right. See you later.